Yashodhanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodhanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivarada Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivarada Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhajikacharya Sthasata Shri Shimanish Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Nanta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Si Kaho Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vindagi. Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Kiri Govardhan Ki. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki. Mathura Dham Ki. Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki. Ganga Maya Ki. Jamuna Maya Ki. Tulsi Devi Ki. Bhakti Devi Ki. Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Guess we should say all glories to the unassembled devotees also. Huh?
Online assembled.
All the online and all the demigods that have come. And we're on third canto, right? And chapter 1. The bookmark's here in chapter 3 and someplace else. And what?
32.
Huh?
32. Verse 32.
3-2. Sanjuni. Sanjuni. In other languages, the numbers are very clear and easy. And in English, 32, 17, 70, very tricky. Non-native speakers can never get it. I never heard one get it. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, text 32, third canto, chapter 1. Kachit Buddha Swasti Anamiva Aste Shwapalka Putro Bhagavat Prapana Ya Krishna Padankita Marga Pungsushu Achestata Prema Bibuna Dairya Gachit Buddha Swastyanami Vaste Swapalka Putro Bhagavat Prapana Ya Krishna Padankita Marga Pungsashu Achestata Prema Bibina Dairya. Okay, everyone else?
Ya Krishna Padankita Marga Pungsashu Achestata Prema Vibhina Dhairyaha Kachit Buddha Swastyanamiva Aste Swapalka Putro Bhagavat Prapannaha Ya Krishna Padankita Marga Pungsashu Achestata Prema Vibhina Dhairyaha Kachit Buddha Swastyanamiva Aste Swapalka Putro Bhagavat Prapannaha Ya Krishna Padankita Marga Pungsashu Achestata Prema Vibhina Dhairyaha
Finished? Everybody? Kachit.
Kachit.
Weather.
Weather.
How's the weather today? The English weird. Buddha.
Buddha.
Very learned.
Very learned.
Swasti.
Swasti.
Well.
Well.
Anamiva.
Anamika.
Faultless. Aste.
Aste.
Does exist.
Does exist.
Shwapalka Putra.
Swapalka Putra.
The son of Shwapalka Akrura.
The son of Swapalka Akrura.
Bhagavat.
Bhagavat.
Regarding the personality of Godhead.
Regarding the personality of Godhead.
Prapana.
Prapanna.
Surrendered.
Surrender.
Ya.
Ya.
One who.
One who.
Krishna.
Krishna.
The Lord.
Lord.
Pada Ankita.
Pada Ankita.
Marked with footprints.
Marked with footprints.
Marga.
Marga.
Path.
Path.
Pung Sushu.
Shushu.
Palm Sushu, yeah. In the dust.
Dust.
A chaste tata.
Chestata.
Exhibited.
Exhibited.
Prema Bibina.
Prema Vibhinna.
Lost in transcendental love.
Lost in transcendental love.
Dairya.
Dairya.
Mental equilibrium.
Mental equilibrium.
Please tell me whether Akrura, the son of Shwapalka, is doing well. He is the faultless soul who surrendered under the personality of Godhead. He once lost his mental equilibrium in ecstasy due to his ecstasy of transcendental love and fell down in the dust of the road, which is marked with the footprints of Lord Krishna. When Akrura came to Vrindavan in search of Krishna, he saw the footprints of the Lord in the dust of Nandagram, and he once fell down on them in ecstasy of transcendental love. This ecstasy is possible only for a devotee who is fully absorbed in incessant thoughts of Krishna. Such a pure devotee of the Lord is naturally faultless because he is always associated with the supremely pure personality of Godhead. Constant thought of the Lord is the antiseptic method of keeping one free from the infectious contamination of material qualities. The pure devotee of the Lord is always in company with the Lord by thinking of Him. Yet, in this particular context of time and place, the transcendental emotions take different turn, and this breaks the mental equilibrium of the devotee. Lord Chaitanya displayed this typical example of transcendental ecstasy, as we can understand from the life of this incarnation of God. Om Gana Timirandasya Gana Gana Shalakaya Chaksura Militanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shiguru Shiyuta Padakamalam Shigurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sajjajatam Sahagana Raghunath Tanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Desatarane Vanchakalpa Charubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha Namo Mahabharanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gora Tuishe Namaha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Okay. Everybody, you all know in the Jairada Madhava, when it says Gopi Jana Balava Giridhari, what does that mean?
The dear most of the gopis.
What?
He's the dear most. Krishna is known as Gopi Janavala. He's the dear most of the gopis.
At that particular time, though,
When he's dancing with them in kunjas.
see, normally the gopis, you could only see him early in the morning, then he'd be gone all day. Then he'd have to sneak at night. But during that 7 days, 24 hours a day, they could just stand right next to him and talk about him and everything. And nobody would stop them. So they got special pleasure during that lifting of Govardhan Hill. He was right there. He couldn't move, and nobody could tell him. He couldn't look at Krishna because everybody was looking at Krishna. Okay, so what is Akrura known for in the 9 processes of bhakti? Shravana, Kirtana, Smarana. Yeah. So he offered, of course, so many people offer beautiful prayers, but when Akrura is a very interesting personality because he got all involved in that Shaimantaka jewel thing and criticized, making trouble for Krishna and planning a murder and everything. They say that because the gopis cursed him when he was taking Krishna out of Vrindavan, so that he had some trouble. So, but he was working for Kamsa, by force, and then Kamsa sent him to get Krishna and Balaram to come for the wrestling match. So he was driving to, at that time it was Nandagram, where Krishna lived, and he had Kamsa's chariot. Kamsa gave him his brand new special chariot. If you line it up with the leg, then it will be all right. And so he was just thinking how he would greet Krishna and Balaram and touch their feet. And he was making all these plans. He was just absorbed in thinking of what good fortune he'd have to meet Krishna. Now this was long before all the other intrigues. But then when he got into Braj, he saw Krishna's footprints in the dust. So he just was overwhelmed with ecstasy and he fell down on the ground. There's a nice picture in the Krishna book. Krishna's footprints were everywhere in Braj, and you might wonder, but somehow all those symbols on his feet, they showed up in the footprints, and very clearly. So even the animals, everyone could recognize Krishna's footprint. Nobody would mess it up, Nobody would walk it, knock it over, or sweep it or anything. So that's how he was able to know is Krishna's footprint. So he made beautiful prayers. I don't remember exactly, but they're very personal, and he's actually a relative of Krishna to some extent. But the gopis were so angry later when he took Krishna out of Vrindavan. They tried everything to stop him. They're lying down in front of the chariot and holding onto the horses and dragging themselves behind the chariot. But Krishna just left. Couldn't really blame Akrura. Akrura came to give the message, and he was telling Krishna and Balaram how Vasudeva and Devaki are suffering so much. So they felt like they should go. Nanda Maharaj and Yasoda, they of course didn't want him to go. Nobody wanted him to go from Vrindavan. And so Krishna asked Balaram, the older brother, and Balaram said, yes, you should go. So then he said, well, I have to go because my older brother is ordering me to go. So he made all the arrangements. And then, of course, he said he'd be back in a few days. That, simply killing Kamsa would do the job. But after he killed Kamsa, that created more enemies, especially Jarasandha. Because his daughters were married to Kamsa, and they became young widows. So Jarasandha became a really serious enemy of Krishna. And Krishna was afraid if he went to Vrindavan, that Vrindavan would get attacked by all these demons. And they're not, they didn't have armies and everything like Mathura. So he stayed in Mathura for a long time, and they moved to Dwarka. But he did visit Vrindavan regularly, but not in the exactly manifested form. But he went back often, and even in the first canto, the people of Dwarka mention his trips to Vrindavan. Although there's no details given of those, but he did go back. But he never stayed. Later he was afraid to go back. They would talk about how much the Brijvasis are suffering, and they'd say, why don't you go back? He said, well, if I go back, I have to leave, then they'll suffer even more. So it was very difficult for Krishna also to decide. So it's mentioning here, Agura, if you read Nectar Devotion, in ecstasy, there's all these emotions which are all contradictory kind of emotions, anger, frustration, ecstasy, all these different things are happening all at once. And that's why these different symptoms come out. Yesterday, Namras asked me something like, do you ever think, like, if it's so troublesome, your service and duties? And I said, it's something like that, you have all the emotions all at once. I got to quit, I got to keep going, I can't do this, I have to, something like on book distribution when everybody says no, for sometimes days on end. Krishna's just testing, But Akura had actually real love for Krishna, and he was not, it wasn't just all of a sudden, like I said, the whole trip, I was wondering, like, when I first heard about it, because from Vrindavan town to Mathura is not very far. So I was wondering why it's such a long, but it was from Nandagram, so that's quite far, to Mathura from there. And then they stopped, and many things. Akura got especially a lot of mercy. But Krishna didn't go to his house, he didn't go right away. And let's see what else is here. But this ecstasy is possible for one who is fully absorbed in incessant thoughts of Krishna. What does incessant mean?
Not stopping, continuous.
That's right. Ceasing. Not ceasing. Thoughts of Krishna. Chanting all the time, cleaning the temple all the time, reading all the time. All these things are ways to think of Krishna. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskaru. Prabhupada said we only have to do these 4 things. It's not like so difficult to accomplish what, At one time, Jayadvaita Maharaj took a walk out here, and in those days, there was a lot of police around all the time. And the policeman drove up, and they asked him, what do you have to do to be a Hare Krishna? He said, you have to give up suffering. And they thought, They actually came and went to the temple and got some books. Because suffering is a state of mind. One boy the other day at Fulton, he said, I want to know myself. And he said, why are we suffering? He was like quite advanced thinker, We're suffering because we identify with the body. Prabhupada's body was in such terrible condition. And he actually said sometimes, he never had, since he came to America, one day of good health. And he was always suffering from something, Suffering from even lack of food in the early days and, heart attacks and all kinds of things. But he never suffered he said, I'm not suffering like you do. He didn't identify with it. The doctor said at the end time there, that knowing the condition he was in, and there was nothing to protect his nerves from the contact of the bed or anything, no flesh or anything. He said anybody would just be screaming in pain, but Prabhupada just went on translating the Bhagavatam and actually even did a little management within a few days of leaving. Completely clear-headed, not disturbed at all. So, because he just didn't identify with the body. Some yogis can do that, they can. And modern, if you go for surgery, they do that by anesthetics, right? People can be fully conscious and they're cutting off their arm with a power saw and they don't feel it. They just watch it. So you can disconnect from the body. So that's what transcendence means. We want to rise above, get free from identifying with the body and the products of the body and the so-called pleasures of the body, the things that we think give us pleasure. Decorating the body, Lord Chaitanya, how did he say? You spend your days decorating your bodies, uselessly decorating your body, right? And your nights sleeping. When will you get out? And this decorating the body, it's just increasing. But always, every culture, they have some kind of tattoos or paint they put on their face. Or, the Africans, if you look at historically, they always had all these amazing hair things, The Bhagavad Prabhupada would refer to that 12th canto in the prediction of Kali Yuga. Now in the translation says beauty will be judged by the hair. Prabhupada would say because that was in the 60s when it was first like men started having long hair. Like when I was in high school, if your hair had touched your ear, you had to get a haircut, Go and get it all trimmed, really. I hated it, but then all of a sudden in high school, then you could have long hair and, people, and that was a big sign of freedom and from oppression and, being like the American Indians who were free to run around. And Prabhupada said by keeping long hairs, they think they're very beautiful. But the haircutting place is called a beauty shop, it's right exactly following the Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam has everything, and people are strictly following. So many things are predicted about Kali Yuga, and it's going on very nicely. And it's only the very beginning of Kali Yuga. Fortunately, we have the golden age of Kali Yuga now that's just getting started, and we're part of it. We need to really push it, The golden age is Lord Chaitanya's golden age. It just means Sankirtan. Prabhupada said it's not the Kirtan movement, Sankirtan movement. And the other day, one boy I was talking to at Union Square, and he knew something about Kirtan, he knew what a harmonium, and he said he'd never seen one, but he'd seen movies or something in India. But he said, I've never seen like this where everybody's participating. I really like this, he said. You know, he saw everybody was playing a cartel, everybody's singing, everybody. Because he'd only seen like the Indian bhajan singers, where it's just a performance, you know. Everyone just sits there and they sing. So he was impressed. And that's the thing about the Sankirtan movement. San means full, everyone, complete. It's complete kirtan, everybody chanting, dancing. You know, when devotees dance in the kirtan, it says in Chaitanya Bhagavat, it purifies the earth. And when they raise their hands in the air, then what? Purifies the heavenly planets. You have so much power. You didn't know you had so much power, right? But it's not that hard to do. But so we may not be quite like a Krura, but to go out and chant in public all the time, dress funny, you know, decorate your face. Of course, nowadays decorating your face in the early days of the movement, everybody, what's that on your face, you know? Why do you shave your head? Because it just was inconceivable that a man would shave his head when you just got the privilege of growing long hair, you know? Just like torture. And myself, I know many devotees that I'd never shave my head, you know, I'd chant Hare Krishna. And when I finally shaved my head and I saw that hair laying on the floor, I thought, how had I ever been so stupid to be attached to that, you know? Because hair is a big maya, you know, when it's growing out of the head, somehow it's very attractive, right? But if you go to the barber shop and the hair on the floor is like, nobody wants, same hair, 1 minute later, but nobody wants to touch it, you know? It's nasty stuff. Except people want to buy now the wigs. You know. Tirupati Temple makes something like $30 million a year selling hair. People ladies shave their head when they go there, and they offer their hair to the deity, and they sell it for the wigs. So if you buy a nice wig, you might be donating to Tirupati. And then especially certain class of women are especially attached to the wigs, even the devotee women in Africa. I tell them you look much better with your just natural hair, you know. But this is decorating the body. Now they're decorating the teeth. I saw in Fulton Mall, put platinum on your teeth and jewels. Fingernails, fake fingernails, and you know, it just goes on and on and on. But what about the mind even, and it, you know, cultivating a good mind? People think about that a little bit, cultivating a soul, and it's so easy. So that's what Bhagavad Gita is, you know, we're trying to purify ourselves by reading, so we know, you know, we're chanting Krishna, Krishna, we should know who Krishna is. So we find out, of course, if you can chant 24 hours a day, then Krishna just reveals everything. Haridas Thakur chanted, I was in the garden with Prabhupada a few times. So one time he asked about Haridas Thakur's japa. And he said if he chanted 7 minutes for one round, how long would it take him to finish? So Karandar had a calculator, which were very rare in those days. He said 21 hours. So Prabhupada said, what if 5 minutes, one round? Then he said 17 hours. Well, it must be that. But he knew scripture. You know, he could preach very nicely. Because he heard others, or I don't know if he read books, but Gorkishore Das Babaji didn't read, or he couldn't sign his name, but he would sit and listen to Bhaktivinoda Thakur preach and take it all in. So he could preach perfectly. Some people would say Haridas Bhaktisiddhanta wrote the purport like that. That, he's only chanting, he's not in the Rasa Leela and stuff. But Bhaktisiddhanta said his chanting was so, he was totally in every kind of Leela, he was in every kind of Rasa, like inconceivable. He was in love with Krishna. How else can you chant so much? Minimum 17 hours a day. Bhaktisiddhanta did that for 10 years. But he would also go around in the village and preach during that time. He had a few hours left out of the 24 every day, 6 hours maybe, because he had to take a bath and eat. And he didn't eat very much, he didn't cook anything. He just soaked rice and dal and made like sprouts, I guess. So, but with love of Krishna, we can chant constantly. So, Prabhupada gave us this association, this society, where we have a chance to, remember Krishna and be engaged and be reminded, we should be serving Krishna, we should be chanting Krishna. There's always something going on. So constant thought of Krishna should be uninterrupted and unmotivated to completely satisfy the self is a method to keep one free from the infectious contamination of material qualities. And also Prabhupada said the devotee, then he becomes also infectious and he infects other people with Krishna consciousness. If you're always chanting and always thinking of Krishna, then people you come in contact with also get infected. And Prabhupada said it'll spread like disease. So one is always, again and again, one is always in the company of the Lord by thinking of Him. And when we read, we're thinking of Krishna or whoever the Bandhavas is, and that means we're in association with these people, Sukadeva Goswami, Sutta Goswami, Narada Muni, Lord Shiva, all the personalities in the Bhagavatam. When we read about them, we're associating with them. Lord Chaitanya, there's hundreds of associates mentioned and their basic, amazing qualities. They're all like coming with Lord Chaitanya from the spiritual world, but we're associating with them. And when people get the book, they're associating. Or Prabhupada said even if they touch the book, they get benefit. He wrote that one time to encourage us. Because so many people, they touch it, but they, I don't need it, But they benefit step by step, They by associating with devotees. So why devotees go out, and they give their association to other people and help them, So we can become protected from these material qualities and all the advertising and all the madness. The devotee was asking today, why people coming from all over the world, they want to see Times Square, and why would anybody want to see that? Unless there's Harinamna or something, but, because it totally absorbs your mind. These mad, insane things that they do, they want to be totally absorbed. So they usually take shelter of some external thing which demands full attention, like these, what are these extreme sports, things like that, like riding a mountain bike down a trail this wide with a cliff on the side and stuff. You have to really concentrate, And then they forget whatever they're normally worried about when they bungee jump, but it's very quick. Intoxication, in Times Square, it's constantly changing, lights flashing, advertising all kinds of insane things. So they forget their normal life, which they don't like. It can also be accomplished by joining the kirtan, but we've all experienced that, and that's why we are out trying to get people to join the kirtan, trying to chant in such a way that everybody can just join in. That should be the mood of the kirtan, that we want everybody who's listening to just automatically start chanting. That they walk by and, they hear Krishna, Krishna. They don't know what it is, but it catches their mind, and then they can't stop and go home, and they keep remembering, and Hare Krishna. Sometimes they ask their friends, why are they doing that? They start to wonder. Even people who don't like it. I've known several devotees who always criticize the devotees, but gradually started thinking, well, why do they keep doing that? Nobody likes them, everybody's criticizing them. Why do they keep doing it? Let me check it out, and then they become devotees. And Lord Chaitanya exhibited this ecstasy much more than anyone else except Radharani. And somehow or other it's all given to us in Chaitanya Charitamrita, all these ecstatic, symptoms of Lord Chaitanya and what he's thinking about, and these emotions. Mayavadis think you should not have any emotions, you shouldn't think, you shouldn't feel anything. It's not possible. Bhakti Yoga is very emotional. I heard somebody saying that nectar devotion, was it you? It's all about emotions or something. There's a lot of information there about emotions. And it's a big issue now with the people. I saw one yoga teacher's advertising all the way, a series of emotional asanas to free your emotions or something. And, people, because Bir Krishna said, and he studied emotions in the university, all they studied was anger and fear, and, they don't even know about ecstatic emotions. But fortunately we do. So, thank you very much. We'll take time for comments, reflections, corrections, questions. All right? Yep.
Krishna Maharaj, you just the last point you were mentioning about this, like the Mayavadis say no emotions, and even coming to devotional service or practicing devotees, there's also kind of this tendency to kind of be like, at least for myself, it's like impersonal tendency. So how do we kind of break free from that impersonal tendency, develop more, personal interactions with the devotees?
Yeah, just keep on, that's the process. It happens automatically because we're getting purified. This is all these coverings we have, fear of being a person and all that stuff. Fear of having a relationship with anybody, fear of success, fear of failure, all these phobias. We get purified just by the process of chanting the whole, just like taking a bath or wash our clothes, they get clean, right? So we're cleansing the heart, and that cleanses the mind. It's just a process. And then by reading about these personalities who are liberated like that and just have totally absorbed in Krishna, we can hanker to be like that, and then Krishna will help us. Is that all right? The process works, but we're all, every devotee is wondering when will it ever work for me, but, But somehow we keep going, so that means it must be working. Something is happening, right? The door is open. Coming in is locked, but anyone can go out, right? And many do. But everybody benefits. All right? Anyone else? Yes, Hari Hari.
Hare Krishna. I was thinking that, I was reflecting on what you were saying about Times Square, that it's just complete absorption with the flashing lights and all these
Noise
and
crazy, Spider-Man and everything.
But it's like everybody's kind of looking for, everybody comes from their place of origin just to get that complete absorption, the lights and the noises and it's like, it's become so famous, it's infamous of the absorption. And relating to this verse, Akrura, he had complete absorption and not on lights and noises, but just on the symbols of Krishna's lotus feet in Nandagram, So it's kind of like they're using it for material, but that absorption can be transferred to Krishna.
They're just absorbed in such stupid things. And intoxication is one of the ultimate ones, but it doesn't last. But they just they don't think about anything else except where the next one's coming from, So they think it's nice, but then they go completely crazy. So we want to become fully absorbed in the kirtan. When John Lennon asked Prabhupada, how do you know who's an advanced devotee or something? Prabhupada said, who's the most addicted to Krishna? I was just mentioning that the other day. Shamasundar wrote that when Prabhupada said that, they were wondering, the devotees were wondering why Prabhupada said addicted, But then, all of a sudden, you probably don't know these names, but there's a William Burroughs and a bunch of writers that were famous junkies, really famous. They wrote books about their experiences and everything. They started visiting there at John Lennon's house all the time. And then he caught on that this is what they're into now, and we have to get out of here, Prabhupada knew already. But they advertised. Samsung had a big signboard in Bombay, this phone is the most addictive one. And these games that come up, they advertise the most addictive game. That means you just can't think of anything else but this game. Great. What happens to you? But hopefully we can get that feeling for Krishna. It's not bad when it's like the gopis they never thought of anything but Krishna and how to please Krishna. Good question.
Maharaj, I was thinking this absorption that we get addicted. Like if I were to play a video game right now, I would be addicted for hours and hours and hours. But we're not. When I've been trying to chant, but when I'm chanting, why is that absorption not coming because I don't know enough about Krishna, or is it that I don't have a proper relationship, or is that what's like the hurdles to absorption?
That's a good question. Because we have other attachments and other things we're worried about, And I guess we don't realize fully that everything is under the control of Krishna anyway. Like anything, I know if I get some stupid material desire, I'd like to have this or that. Somehow it just shows up, But, you want something really substantial. Even when one of my favorite rock singers said, things that don't matter easy come and go, but things that really matter come real slow, So, these simple things, they just it's easy, So we tend to look for the easy way out, but Krishna is the topmost sublime thing, so But we were chanting quite a few hours every day. And one girl, when I went to the fireworks, and I think she must have been in TM, because she said, I meditate, I have a teacher. She wouldn't take Bhagavad Gita. I meditate 20 minutes every day. That's the TM thing, So it's easy, and you get something from it. But, and it's good. People are meditating, and I asked one boy, what do you meditate? He said, just my state of mind, I just watch myself. So that's the beginning. But then you have to put something in there to change, But Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. So I think how to connect people. A few people I met the other day said they were, they had tuned to some podcast about Bhagavad Gita, and they had already got one from, the park or something. We have to direct them to all those things. So many courses, Bhagavad Gita study courses, this, that, kirtan courses. Like somebody asked me, they saw your camera and they said, is this being broadcast somewhere, So a lot of people, they like the kirtan, they don't want anything else. But so if we had said, this is live every day on Mayapur TV, might get a lot of people tuning in. And then they'll get purified. They don't have to go to the park or the subway station, And then they might see other things that are on Mayapur TV, get links. All right? Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Akura Prabhu ki. Akura means, what is it? Not cruel or something. Akura means not cruel. The gopi said it's not true, he's cruel. He said he's cruel. But he was, he knew that would get Kamsa killed, and also he was very concerned about Vasudeva and Devaki. So, and Krishna just arranges everything. Jai. New York.